Now, one of my favourite places to come to when flying the drone or testing any new products is here. This absolutely stunning forest. So today I'm going to be testing that DJI MAVIC 3 and seeing how it does in an area like this, a perfect area for this drone. And I'm also going to be using the new ND filters I've got by Freewell. It is quite foggy and misty today, so I'm just going to be using an ND4, but it still allows me to get into them pro settings and have that shutter speed exactly where I want it. Let's get into that video. So I do love this location, but will the MAVIC 3 love it? After all, this drone doesn't do well with twigs, trees, any obstacles, so it's going to be interesting if this even survives. I am armed today with the Insta-X2. This is a fantastic 360 camera, especially when you're on your own. You can able to get some brilliant forwards and backwards video. It's like having another person with you to help you with your filming, and that is brilliant. So I'm now going to find a suitable location to put this drone through its first test. The first test I'm going to be doing is the obstacle avoidance test. This has APAS 5.0, so it should be great, but we know from tests I've done before that it is erratic, this drone. It's like a pit bull, and it doesn't like doing things nice and smooth. So this looks like to be the ideal location, but for your viewing pleasure I'm going to turn off all these beeps from now on. Only I had to endure this throughout this whole filming. Now, the DJI promo material was in a woods on a bike and it had no problems, so of course this should be perfect. And you can see it is pretty good. You can see how it is just floating around quite effortlessly, avoiding these trees. But it is always a bit of a worry about if it's just going to maybe clip one of these twigs or the branches, and not from the actual obstacle avoidance system, which I think is pretty good. It's about that this drone is just erratic in the way that it avoids them. And sometimes when it does avoid them, it then comes narrowly close to hitting another object it didn't intend to. If we could turn this down a little bit, this would be much, much better. Of course we want it to avoid these obstacles, and it does a good job, but we just want it to be a little bit less erratic. And this should be sold with a firmware update, so DJI, I hope this will be coming soon. But overall, the obstacle avoidance system is remarkable. You can see now I'm stood directly dead in front of it from this angle, and it actually swerves around me, avoids me, and then just carries on into its flight path straight through into these trees. And it's really foggy, as you can see. I don't have GPS lock all the time, and it just avoids everything right to the end without any problems. It's remarkable just how good this APAS system is. It's only when you add the next problem it starts to get a little bit erratic. And you guessed it, that is the active track, or the focus track it's like to be called. Once you add these two together, it just turns into a unruly child that nobody can control. The active track at the moment is nothing but a buggy mess which needs to be solved pretty fast. As you can see, dragging the box around the bike had no attempt to lock on whatsoever. I only did so when I locked onto myself. And then when we put them two together, it does okay, but it's certainly not what you would call cinematic. You can see the rocking forward and back trying to keep me in the frame. And it seems to, the processing power is based so much on keeping me in track. The obstacle avoidance then doesn't seem to be as good, and it suffers from near misses, ridiculous, violent swerves across to just try and keep me in the position it wants. It will then narrowly avoid hitting obstacles and twigs, but it did so brilliantly before. It's only when we add active track, it all seems to fall apart. Now I am going at quite a steady pace, and that was from the rear tracing, which is probably its best. Front tracing is pretty bad. As you can see, it is really close to me here, and it's wanting to be that close to me. It's like, please give me some space, and there's nothing you can do. You can't push that back. It just wants to stay close to you all the time, like some clingy little, and you just want it to push it back, and it doesn't. It wants to stay close to you, and then because of that you get this rocky motion, and it's just not cinematic. Yes, it looks alright, maybe that's because of the location, but it's not usable in any sort of commercial work, and it could be so much better. I like the ability to be able to move the drone to the side, front and back, and the obstacle avoidance is good. But when you add the two together, it's like the obstacle avoidance is forgotten about, and it's all about keeping track no matter what happens, and that isn't good. So who is this drone for? I love this drone, and this drone should get a lot better, and if it doesn't, Evo Autel Evo 3 is going to wipe the floor with this drone. This could be so much better. It is a fantastic drone, but it's like it's just been rushed out. The active track, certainly. There are elements of it which are great, but this is like I've been sent this to beta test it, as well as all these other YouTubers, and most have crashed it, and that's not their fault. This is because of the erratic firmware which exists currently. So I would only use the focus track in areas where there isn't any obstacles whatsoever, in perfect situations, because aside from that, it's just a ticking time bomb when this drone is going to crash, narrowly avoiding obstacles and twigs just for the sheer importance of keeping me in the centre of the frame. No matter what happens, no matter what object I will hit, I will keep this idiot in the centre of the frame on that peculiar bike. Now this is a real shame, because I do love this drone, because I love everything else about it. I like the style of it, I like the aggressive nature, the camera and photo quality coming out of this is just remarkable, and there isn't another drone that comes close to this. But because of these firmware decisions and software decisions, there isn't a huge gap to stop other drone manufacturers or drones coming close to this. So DJI have a lot of updates to do, and I hope we will see them soon. We should have seen this firmware update at the end of January. No one cared about waiting for this. Bring it out once it's ready, and at the moment it's certainly not ready. And the active track feature from the advert, let's not forget, looked remarkable when it was tracking that guy on a bike. That didn't hit anything. So why are we losing so many drones from the current DJI firmware? And that is what needs to improve. And then hopefully we might have then the perfect DJI drone. And then also, let's just not forget, we still have quite a bit of battery life left. I think when it landed, it had about 25, maybe 30% battery on it as well. And considering we've used active track, which drains the battery more, we've been able to film all around this kind of area in 5K, 4K, and some high shots, fast shots, low shots.
I think the battery life on this is one of the biggest selling points.
Can we just take a moment for this little thing as well? On really rough, uneven, slippery surfaces, this little electric Fido bike allowed me to get all these shots without being absolutely knackered. So big shout out to this little electric bike, this is great.
So it was super fun to film that in one of my favourite areas. If you want to find out how to make some money with your drone, click up here. And if you want to go and check out my first review when I first got this, go and click in the top left corner. We'll see you all very soon, guys. Bye bye.